My name is Delaney Quinn, and the morning I turned 18, I woke up to the kind of silence that screams, Saturday. Fishers, Indiana, 6:31 a.m. The house was dead quiet. No balloons taped to the banister. No off-key happy birthday from Morgan. No smell of Dad's half-burning pancakes like he sometimes pretended to care. Just cold hardwood under my feet. I walked into the kitchen. A single sticky note waited on the island at Attorney Brooks. Back late. Stay quiet. My phone buzzed. Morgan's text from 5:09. We're handling something important. Just chill today, sis. I went straight to Dad's office. A photocopied will lay half-covered under some folders. I flipped to the last page. My name, Delaney Quinn, slashed out in thick red marker. Below it, in Dad's handwriting, everything divided equally between Sandra Quinn and Morgan Quinn. My heart didn't race. It just went still, like someone flipped a switch to ice. I brewed coffee, black opened my MacBook, and logged into the trust portal Grandma Evelyn set up years ago. The screen flashed green, Delaney Quinn, sole beneficiary and trustee. Authority effective today. I pressed call. Happy birthday, sweetheart, Mr. Harold Fisher answered instantly. I'm selling the house, I said. 12 hours. Wire transfer? Can you make it happen? 2 beats of silence. Then your grandmother wrote that clause for exactly this moment. I'm already pulling the files. I ended the call, inhaled once, and dialed Diego Navarro, the investor who's been low-balling this property since I was 16. Still want the house in Fishers? I asked. Name your price. Cash wire. Close today. If you're listening to this right now, tell me in the comments, what time is it, where you are, and has your own family ever looked you in the eye and chosen money over you? I read every single one. To understand why I felt nothing but cold clarity that morning, I have to go back 17 years. My real mother died when I was 11 months old. Stage 4 breast cancer diagnosed too late. Dad carried me through the cemetery in his arms, tears soaking my blanket, swearing no one could ever take her place. 11 months later, he brought Sandra home and said, "This is your new mommy now." I was still learning to walk. Sandra was pregnant before the wedding cake was finished. Morgan arrived the week I turned 2. Suddenly, I was the responsible big sister, while I still drank from a sippy cup. Sandra's favorite line became, "Big girls let their little sisters go first." So I went second. Always. Grandma Evelyn watched the whole thing with narrowed eyes. She saw Dad coming to her every few months with a new sob story about providing for my 2 daughters. When I was 10, she buckled me into her Lincoln, drove me to Mr. Harold Fisher's downtown office, and spent 3 hours signing an irrevocable family trust. She placed the 5-bedroom house on 116th Street, her brokerage accounts, everything inside it. Then she added the line that mattered most on my 18th birthday. I would become sole trustee with unrestricted power to sell in legal terms, sell, transfer, or otherwise dispose of any trust asset without consent or court approval. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "This is your lifeboat, baby. Don't hesitate to use it." From 14 onward, I worked every legal job a minor in Indiana can hold. Babysitting toddlers on Lantern Road for $12 an hour, mowing lawns in 98-degree heat until my hands blistered, shoveling snow at dawn when the wind chill dropped below 0, tutoring algebra to 8th graders who paid in cash and Mountain Dew. At 16, I landed the evening shift at the Starbucks off Allisonville Road. Green apron, fake smile tip stuffed into an envelope marked House Fund. Every dollar went into the trust because Dad and Sandra needed a heated saltwater pool, a home gym with mirrored walls, quartz countertops, the white Lexus RX for Sandra cheer tumbling classes for Morgan's SAT prep courses. Morgan skipped a gap-year apartment downtown when Morgan decided college wasn't her vibe. I paid because I thought if I gave enough, they would finally love me back. They never did. Morgan got Disney trips and Sweet 16 parties with live DJs. I got a grocery store sheet cake and a forced smile in photos. Morgan posted with the caption, "Best fam ever." When Morgan totaled her Jeep at 17, I covered the insurance deductible from my graduation money. When Morgan wanted to find herself in Broad Ripple for 8 months, I paid the rent on her studio so Dad wouldn't have to touch his 401k high. Grandma Evelyn started forgetting names when I was 15. The last time she recognized me, she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and said, "They'll try to take everything that's yours. Don't let them." She passed 3 years ago. I promised her grave I wouldn't. Every double shift, every skipped prom, every swallowed tear was me quietly loading ammunition they didn't know existed. They assumed the trust was some boring legal paperwork that would stay locked until they were ready to cash out. They were wrong. And this morning, the second the clock hit midnight, the lock clicked open. The coffee had gone cold in my hand, but I barely noticed. I snapped photos of every page of the photocopied will, the red slashes across my name burning into the screen. I attached them to a message for Mr. Fisher. They just erased me. My phone rang before I even locked the screen. Delaney. His voice came low and steady. Section 7B is airtight. Your grandmother made sure of that. As of 12:01 this morning, you can sell the real property today. No notice, no signatures, no court. I pulled up the trust portal on my laptop. Balance $4,310,000. Current appraised value of the house $1,350,000. I shot him a follow-up text, "Send the full trust document. Now." While the file downloaded, I opened the banking app and scrolled 5 years back. Every transfer I had signed for every withdrawal Dad and Sandra told me was for the family. $168,000 for the saltwater pool and mirrored gym. $74,000 for Sandra's white Lexus. $112,000 wired to Morgan's various college funds, cheer camps, and the Broad Ripple apartment she abandoned after 4 months. I screenshotted every single line, dropped them into a folder titled Evidence, and emailed it to myself on 3 different accounts. The printer in Dad's office still had ink. He used it for quarterly tax packets. 48 pages slid out warm. I stapled them, slid the stack into a manila envelope, and wrote my name across the front in thick black Sharpie. I called Diego Navarro. He picked up on the second ring. Delaney Quinn. Been waiting for this call. $1,280,000, I said. Wire transfer. Close today. Silence for half a beat. Then I'm in Indianapolis right now. I can be in Fisher's in 25 minutes. Title company owes me favors. We'll make it happen. I gave him Mr. Fisher's direct line and hung up. Next call was to the locksmith on 131st Street who advertises same-day smart lock installs. I booked the first available slot. Then I reserved a 10-foot U-Haul for personal items only. I wasn't touching their furniture, their cars, their memories. Just the things that actually belonged to me. I walked upstairs to my room, pulled 2 suitcases from the top shelf, and started with the only photo album Mom ever appeared in. Then Grandma Evelyn's handwritten letters, the ones she mailed me every birthday after her diagnosis. I folded my Purdue acceptance hoodie, the one I bought with my own money, and tucked it on top. My laptop external drive, the worn-out teddy bear Grandma won for me at the state fair when I was 7. Everything else could burn for all I cared. I carried the suitcases downstairs, set them by the garage door, and opened the trust portal again. I initiated the wire instructions for Diego's deposit, $100,000 earnest money, non-refundable, due within the hour. The confirmation pinged instantly. Mr. Fisher texted, title company confirmed. Cash deal, no financing contingency. They'll have clean title ready by 4 p.m. You're the seller and the trustee. Indiana law lets you sign both sides. It's done. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all morning. I walked through every room one last time. The kitchen island where Sandra criticized my cooking. The living room couch Morgan spilled nail polish on and made me pay to reupholster. The backyard pool I cleaned every weekend while they lounged with friends. I took nothing. I left everything exactly as they deserved. My phone buzzed again. Diego wiring Ernest now. See you soon. I slipped the envelope with the trust documents into my backpack, grabbed my keys, and stepped onto the front porch. The spring air smelled like cut grass and freedom. The house wasn't theirs anymore. It never really was. I pulled on my favorite gray Purdue hoodie, the one I bought myself the day I got my acceptance letter, tied my hair into a high ponytail, and sat on the edge of my bed. The house was still silent. Perfect. My phone lit up with DocuSign notifications. One after another. Purchase agreement. Trustee affidavit. Seller disclosure marked as is. I signed every page with the same calm stroke. The earnest money hit the escrow account at exactly 11:07. $100,000. Gone from Diego's account, locked into mine. Non-refundable. The title company emailed the final HUD-1. Closing scheduled for 4:30 p.m. same day. Indiana law allows it when the buyer pays cash and the seller is also the trustee. No mortgage, no appraisal, no waiting period. Just signatures and wire instructions. I called Fisher's Lock and Key on 131st Street. The guy recognized my voice from 2 years ago when I had to rekey after Morgan lost her set for the third time. Need every exterior smart lock swap today, I told him. I'm the trustee. I'll forward the trust docs. He quoted $800 and promised a tech within the hour. Next, a small local moving company I found on Yelp. 2 guys, 1 truck, 1 hour max. Personal items only. I wasn't touching the sectional, the dining table, or the 75-inch TV they all fought over. Just my stuff. I opened my closet and dragged out the 2 biggest suitcases I owned. First went the photo album with the faded picture of Mom holding me on the hospital bed the day I was born. Then the shoebox full of Grandma Evelyn's letters, each one ending with the same line, "You are enough." I added my high school yearbooks, the Purdue hoodie collection, every pair of jeans that actually fit, and the ancient MacBook covered in stickers. Last, the teddy bear Grandma won for me at the Indiana State Fair when I was 7. Its left ear was half chewed off by the dog we had for exactly 6 weeks before Sandra decided pets were too much work. I zipped the cases, hauled them downstairs, and lined them up by the garage door like soldiers ready to leave a war zone. I walked to the front entryway and unscrewed the wooden plaque that read, "The Quinns, Est 2009. The year Dad married Sandra." I dropped it into an empty Amazon box without ceremony. The title company emailed a PDF property under contract, pending closing. I printed 2 copies on Dad's printer, taped one to the front door and one to the side light window. No giant for sale sign, no courtesy to neighbors, just facts. The locksmith arrived first. 29 minutes door to door. He scanned the trust summary I emailed, nodded once, and got to work. Front door, back door, garage entry, patio, slider. All new August smart locks keyed to my phone only. He handed me the old keys in a plastic bag. Trash or keepsake, he asked. I dropped them straight into the kitchen garbage. The movers showed up right after. 2 guys in gray t-shirts. I pointed to the suitcases and 3 banker boxes I had filled with textbooks and winter coats. 43 minutes later, the truck was loaded and gone. Invoice paid from the trust debit card. I did one final walkthrough. Master bedroom. Sandra's perfume still hung in the air. Morgan's old room cheer trophies gathering dust. The basement gym mirrors I paid for weights Morgan never touched. The pool out back. Crystal blue water I used to skim every Sunday morning while they slept in. I stood in the 2-story foyer, backpack on my shoulder, envelope of trust originals in hand. Sunlight poured through the transom window and landed on the exact spot where family Christmas photos used to be taken. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just the clean, sharp edge of finality. I set the alarm to away, stepped outside, and pulled the door shut. The new lock clicked with satisfying authority. The house was sealed. The white Lexus RX turned into the driveway, and the engine cut off with the same smug purr it always had. 3 doors opened. 3 sets of footsteps crossed the stamped concrete I used to power wash every Memorial Day weekend. Morgan saw the red and black property under contract, pending closing sign taped to the glass first. She froze mid-step, Louis Vuitton crossbody swinging. Mom. Dad. What is that? Sandra's heels clicked faster. Dad was already at the door, fist raised like he owned the place, which technically he hadn't for almost 5 hours. He pounded hard enough to rattle the sidelights. Delaney, open. This door right now. Sandra's voice cracked behind him. Baby, please, this isn't funny. I tapped the August app. The deadbolt slid back with a soft thunk. I stood in the 2-story foyer. Mr. Harold Fisher waited to my left in his navy suit leather briefcase at his feet. Diego Navarro leaned casually against the kitchen island, arms folded, black polo stretching across his shoulders. The escrow officer's face glowed on the mounted TV zoom window, already open and waiting. Dad stormed in first, face the color of raw steak. He opened his mouth, and every word died when he registered the 2 strangers and the complete absence of my belongings. Morgan shoved past him. Who the hell are you people? Her gaze darted to the bare console table where senior pictures used to sit, then to the empty hooks by the garage door. Where's all your stuff? Sandra clutched her pearls literally. Delaney, honey, whatever this is, we can talk. It's not a discussion, I said. Dad finally found his voice. You changed the locks on your own family. Before I could answer, the alarm let out 2 sharp emergency chirps. I had switched it to duress mode at noon. Any forced entry attempt triggers an automatic 911 dispatch with GPS coordinates. Less than 6 minutes later, red and blue lights painted the foyer walls. 2 Fisher's officers stepped inside, one tall with a buzz cut, the other shorter and broader. The taller one scanned the room. We've got a priority alarm activation. Everyone calm and identify yourselves. Dad exploded. This is my house. My daughter locked us out and brought strangers inside. Arrest her. The shorter officer held up a hand. Sir, lower your voice. Ma'am. He turned to me. ID and paperwork, please. I handed over my Indiana driver's license and the stapled 48-page trust. Mr. Fisher slid the certified deed addendum across the island. Harold Fisher, counsel for the trustee. The property transferred to Miss Quinn's sole control at 12:01 a.m. today. She is the legal owner. The officers took their time. The taller one read the critical paragraph aloud. Upon the beneficiary reaching age 18, said, beneficiary shall become sole trustee with full unrestricted power to sell, convey, mortgage, or otherwise dispose of trust assets without consent, joinder, or court order of any other party. Dad's jaw worked soundlessly. Sandra let out a high-pitched keen and swayed. Morgan screamed, That's bullshit. We were at our lawyer this morning. He said the house goes to us. Mr. Fisher adjusted his glasses. Your lawyer can amend a will all he wants. A will only controls assets titled in your personal name. This residence has been held in the Evelyn Quinn Irrevocable Trust since 2015. Your will is irrelevant. Sandra collapsed against Dad's chest, gasping. We're being robbed in our own home. Morgan tried to bolt toward me. You planned this whole thing, you jealous? The shorter officer moved smoothly between us. Young lady, back up. Dad's eyes filled with tears he hadn't earned. Delaney, sweetheart, whatever they told you, it's a misunderstanding. We love you. I looked at him and felt exactly nothing. You love the idea of my money. Not me. The taller officer closed the binder and handed it back. Title and trust appear valid. Miss Quinn is the sole legal occupant. You 3 need to leave the property immediately. Sandra screamed a raw animal sound. Morgan dropped to her knees right on the foyer, tile palms slapping the floor. This is my house. I grew up here. Dad tried one last desperate grab. Officers, please. She's 18 today. She's upset. Give us a chance to talk as a family. The shorter officer shook his head. Not on this property, sir. You have 15 minutes to collect personal belongings. After that, anyone remaining will be removed. Morgan was openly sobbing now, crawling toward the staircase like a toddler. Sandra had to be half carried by Dad toward the master bedroom. I heard drawers slamming, zippers ripping, Sandra's broken wails echoing down the hallway. I stayed exactly where I was, arms loose at my sides, watching the clock on the cable box tick. 4:59, 5:05, 5:12. They came back down carrying 3 overnight bags and 2 purses, faces streaked and swollen. Dad paused at the threshold, shoulders shaking. Sandra wouldn't look at me. Morgan did, eyes full of pure hate. The officers escorted them to the porch. The taller one spoke quietly into his radio. The front door closed with a final soft click. Through the sidelight, I watched Dad fumble the key fob, drop it, pick it up with trembling fingers. Sandra folded herself into the passenger seat like a broken doll. Morgan climbed in back and immediately turned her face to the window. The Lexus reversed down the driveway, tires crunching over the same gravel that used to scrape my knees when I learned to ride a bike. I didn't move until the taillights vanished. The title company's Zoom link flashed on the 75-inch TV I never liked anyway. The escrow officer's face appeared crisp and professional. We're ready to record whenever the seller is. Diego sat across from me at the oak dining table that used to seat 7 on Thanksgiving. Mr. Fisher placed the closing binder between us like a referee. I opened the laptop, angled the camera, and hit record for my own records. The escrow officer walked us through the final HUD-1. Purchase price $1,280,000. Earnest money credited. Balance due $1,180,000. Diego tapped his phone. A notification pinged on the trust account. Wire received. 4:47 p.m. on the dot. I signed the warranty deed with the same black pen I used for my Purdue application. Trustee signature line. Seller signature line. Both mine. 11 minutes from start to finish. The escrow officer smiled. Congratulations, Mr. Navarro. Recording confirmed with Hamilton County. Keys are yours. Diego stood stretched and shook Mr. Fisher's hand. Pleasure doing business. Then he looked at me. I'll have my crew here Monday to change everything over. Take your time leaving. He walked out the front door without another word. The officers stepped back inside. Clocks ticking. 15 minutes. Sandra's knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe to stay upright, nails scraping paint. Dad's face had gone gray, the color of old dishwater. Morgan spun in a slow circle, eyes bloodshot, taking in the empty shelves, the missing photos, the silence where her life used to echo. Dad found his voice first. Delaney, you can't do this to us. I met his stare. 12 hours ago you stood in Attorney Brooks's office and erased me from the will. I'm only doing what Grandma Evelyn made legal the second I turned 18. Sandra let out a broken sound, half sob, half scream. You ungrateful little. She lunged, but Dad caught her wrist. Morgan dropped to the floor, palms flat on the hardwood she used to practice cheer routines on. This is my home, she whispered, voice cracking. Where am I supposed to go? I didn't answer. Dad tried again, softer. We can fix this. We'll rip up the new will. You'll still get your share. Just don't take the house. I almost laughed. You think this is about my share? You think I want a piece of what you were willing to steal? Sandra slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, mascara smeared into black streaks. I'll kill myself, she said suddenly, voice hollow. If you do this, I swear I'll kill myself. The taller officer shifted his weight. Ma'am, that's not helpful right now. Dad knelt beside her, whispering promises I couldn't hear. Morgan crawled over and curled against Sandra's side like a child half her age. I stayed standing. Minutes bled away. They moved like ghosts, grabbing purses, laptops, a few changes of clothes stuffed into Louis Vuitton duffels that suddenly looked ridiculous. Dad tried one last time, holding out his phone. Call the title company. Tell them it was a mistake. We'll pay you whatever you want. I looked at the screen, then at him. I don't want your money. I want what was always mine. The officers cleared their throats. Time's up. Dad helped Sandra to her feet. She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Morgan refused to look at me as they shuffled toward the door. At the threshold, Dad paused, shoulders sagging. I'm sorry, he said so quietly I almost missed it. I didn't reply. They stepped onto the porch. The officers followed, closing the door behind them. Through the sidelight, I watched Dad open the back of the Lexus, toss in the bags, then stand there with his hand on the liftgate, staring at the house like he didn't recognize it. Sandra collapsed into the passenger seat. Morgan climbed in back, face turned away. Dad finally got behind the wheel. The engine turned over. Reverse lights glowed. The SUV backed slowly down the driveway, tires crunching on the gravel I used to rake every spring. I watched until the taillights disappeared around the corner. Then I locked the door, set the alarm to stay, and walked back to the empty dining table. The house was finally completely quiet. My silver 2025 Honda Civic, paid in full from the trust, rolled past the old neighborhood for the first time in 8 months. I didn't plan it. I was just taking the long way back from the aerospace engineering lab on campus, the one that smells like jet fuel and ambition. The cul-de-sac looked smaller. The maple trees had grown, but everything else felt shrunk. Diego had painted the house charcoal gray with white trim. A new black Range Rover sat in the driveway instead of the white Lexus. The basketball hoop Morgan begged for at 14 was gone. In its place stood a sleek metal sculpture that probably cost more than her first car. I slowed to 20 miles an hour without meaning to. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, 7980 unread messages from numbers I blocked the day I left. Morgan had created new accounts on every platform, sliding into my DMs with variations of, "You ruined my life," and "Dad's drinking again." I never opened them. I just kept hitting block. I lived in a one-bedroom off Chauncey Avenue, now 3rd floor, west-facing windows that caught the sunset over the Wabash. Rent was $2,200 a month. I paid the entire lease up front. The trust let me distribute up to $2,100,000 to myself as beneficiary without tax penalty, as long as it was for education or health. Purdue's aerospace program cost about $30,000 a year in-state. I paid 4 years in full the week I moved in. The rest covered books, food, and the quiet certainty that no one could ever take it away again. Dad and Sandra ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment off Fall Creek in Geist, the cheap side near the reservoir, where the buildings all look the same. No equity left to refinance, credit wrecked from missed payments once the house vanished. I knew because the trust still got the annual tax statements. Dad's FICO had dropped below 600. Morgan quit Ivy Tech after 1 semester. She waitressed full-time at the Chili's on 82nd Street, black polo, and forced smile tips, barely covering her share of utilities. She tried Venmo requesting me 37 times before I blocked that too. The only person I still talked to from high school was Avery Chen, my lab partner since sophomore year chemistry. She knew everything. She never judged. We met every Thursday at XXX for root beer and burgers, and she never once asked why I didn't go home for break. I turned left onto 116th Street, past the Kroger where I used to push the cart, while Sandra filled it with organic everything I paid for. The Starbucks on the corner still had the same green awning. I wondered if my old manager ever noticed I disappeared. My phone lit up again. This time a text from an unknown number. "Please, Delaney. I'm pregnant. I need help. Morgan." I pulled into the empty church parking lot at the end of the block. Hands tight on the wheel. The message sat there. No photo, no proof, just words. I stared until the screen went dark. I didn't reply. I deleted the thread, blocked the number, and drove the rest of the way to campus with the windows down and music loud enough to drown everything else out. Some doors stay closed for a reason. My 19th birthday fell on a Saturday again. I threw open the windows of my Chauncey Avenue apartment, let the late May air roll in, and invited exactly 4 people: Avery plus Jake, Maya, and Liam from my propulsion systems cohort. No giant sheet cake, no forced singing, no fake smiles. Just 3 extra-large pizzas from Mad Mushroom, a case of cherry Coke, and music loud enough to rattle the cheap blinds. We pushed the coffee table against the wall and turned the living room into a makeshift dance floor, into a disaster of red Solo cups and half-eaten crusts. Jake tried to teach everyone the Running Man. Maya recorded it for blackmail material. Avery and I ended up on the tiny balcony, legs dangling over the railing, watching college kids stream toward Harry's chocolate shop below. She bumped my shoulder. "Happy actual birthday, Quinn." I smiled, the real kind that reached my eyes for the first time in years. "Thanks for coming." Inside, Liam was attempting to balance a pizza box on his head while the others counted seconds. Laughter spilled out the open door and floated down State Street. Later, when the pizza boxes were stacked in the trash and the last guest hugged me goodbye, I stood alone on that same balcony. The sky over West Lafayette was the color of a bruised peach, streetlights flickering on one by one. Somewhere 60 miles south, the house on 116th Street belonged to strangers who would never know the fights that happened inside those walls. The tears soaked into the carpet, the red pen marks across a little girl's name. I still carried Quinn on my driver's license and my Purdue ID, but the paperwork to change it was already filed with the Tippecanoe County Courthouse. Mom's maiden name Grandma Evelyn had kept. After Grandpa died, Harper, Delaney Harper. The judge approved the petition last week. The new Social Security card was in the mail. One more tether quietly cut. Avery poked her head out. "You okay?" "Never better," I said, and meant it. She handed me a small white cupcake with a single candle. "Make a wish anyway." I closed my eyes. I didn't wish for money or revenge or even justice. I wished for the version of me who used to flinch at loud voices to stay gone forever. I blew out the flame in one breath. We stayed up until 3 more hours talking about grad school, NASA internships, the new Boeing whistleblower scandal. Normal 19-year-old things. When Avery finally crashed on my couch, I pulled the throw blanket over her, turned off the lights, and stood in the dark kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the muffled bass from the bar patios 2 blocks away. This was peace. Not the absence of noise, but the presence of choice. I opened my laptop and refreshed the trust portal one last time before bed. Balance $3,982,000 after tuition, apartment, and the new Civic. I closed the tab. I didn't need to check it every night anymore. My phone stayed silent. No frantic texts. No new numbers begging. I had changed my number the week I moved into this apartment. The only people who had it were the 4 in my living room tonight and Mr. Fisher, who still sent quarterly statements like clockwork. I walked to the window. A couple stumbled arm in arm down the sidewalk, laughing too loud the way only college kids can. I watched them disappear under the railroad bridge and felt something loosen in my chest. Family isn't blood. It's the people who stay when you stop paying for their lives. It's the friends who show up with cheap pizza and expensive loyalty. It's the grandmother who built an iron wall around your future when everyone else was busy picking the lock. I turned off the balcony light, locked the door, and crawled into bed. The last thing I saw before sleep was the faint glow of the Purdue Water Tower against the sky, gold letters shining like a promise I had already started keeping. Tomorrow would be Sunday. I had a fluids exam Monday, a wind tunnel lab Tuesday, and absolutely no one waiting to take credit for my success. For the first time in my life, the day was entirely mine, and that was the best birthday gift I'd ever received.